The most genius military maneuver in ancient Roman history you've never heard of. Picture this. A 29-year-old Roman general faces an enemy army twice his size, led by Hannibal's own brothers, with veteran troops who've never lost a battle in Spain. His solution? He spends weeks conditioning his enemies to expect one thing, then delivers something completely different in a tactical masterstroke so brilliant it's still taught in military academies 2,200 years later. Welcome back to Chapters in History, where we uncover the hidden gems of military genius. I am your host, and today we're diving into the most overlooked tactical brilliance in Roman history. A maneuver so clever, it makes Hannibal's tactics look simple by comparison. If you love stories of strategic genius and battlefield innovation, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, because this story will change how you think about ancient warfare. This is the Battle of Ilipa, and the genius who pulled it off was Scipio Africanus, the man who would eventually defeat Hannibal himself. Chapter 1. The Setup. Spain's crucial battleground. To understand why this maneuver was so brilliant, you need to understand the impossible situation Scipio faced in 206 BC. Rome was losing the Second Punic War. Hannibal had been ravaging Italy for over a decade. Multiple Roman armies had been destroyed, and Rome's allies were starting to defect. The only bright spot was Spain, where a young, untested general named Publius Cornelius Scipio had been sent on what many considered a suicide mission. Scipio wasn't supposed to be there. He was only 25 when he volunteered for the Spanish command, after his father and uncle, both experienced generals, had been killed fighting Carthaginian forces. The Roman Senate was so desperate, they gave the job to someone who had never held independent command. But Scipio had already proven himself brilliant by capturing New Carthage, the Carthaginian capital in Spain, in a single day through an amphibious assault that everyone thought was impossible. Now, in 206 BC, he faced his ultimate test. The Carthaginians had assembled their largest army in Spain under the command of Hasdrubal Gisco and Mago Barca, Hannibal's own brother. This wasn't just any army. It included 70,000 infantry, 4,000 cavalry, and 32 war elephants. More importantly, it contained the cream of Carthaginian military might, veteran African infantry, who had never been defeated, Spanish tribal warriors fighting on their home ground, and Numidian cavalry, considered the best horsemen in the world. Scipio had maybe 45,000 men, mostly raw Roman recruits and Spanish allies of questionable loyalty. He was outnumbered, outgunned, and facing opponents who had every geographical and tactical advantage. The conventional wisdom was clear. Avoid battle at all costs. Retreat to fortified positions and wait for reinforcements that might never come. But Scipio had a different plan, one that would require not just tactical brilliance, but psychological manipulation on a scale never before attempted. Chapter 2. The Psychological Setup. Conditioning the enemy. What Scipio did next reveals a level of strategic thinking that goes far beyond normal military tactics. He began what modern psychologists would recognize as a systematic conditioning program designed to manipulate enemy expectations. For days, Scipio deployed his army in the same formation every morning. Roman and Italian troops in the center, Spanish allies on the wings. The same position, the same timing, the same basic arrangement. Day after day, the armies would face each other, skirmish briefly, then withdraw without major combat. To the Carthaginians, this looked like standard Roman caution. Scipio appeared to be playing it safe, using his most reliable troops in the center where the decisive fighting usually occurred, while placing his less trusted Spanish allies in supporting positions on the flanks. Hasdrubal and Mago began deploying their own forces to counter this expected Roman formation. Their elite African infantry took position in the center to face the Romans directly, while Spanish and Numidian forces covered the wings. This made perfect tactical sense. Put your best troops where the enemy puts theirs. But Scipio was playing a much deeper game. Each day of this routine was actually reconnaissance and conditioning. He was studying exactly how the Carthaginians deployed, how long it took them to form up, which units moved where, and most importantly, He was training them to expect a specific Roman formation. Modern military theorists call this pattern setting, establishing predictable behavior to create exploitable expectations. Scipio was essentially programming his enemies to respond automatically to what they thought was his preferred battle plan. Meanwhile, he was drilling his own troops in something completely different. While the Carthaginians saw the same Roman formation each day, Scipio was secretly training his army to execute a maneuver that would turn conventional tactics upside down. The genius was that this psychological manipulation required perfect discipline from his own forces. Every Roman soldier had to maintain the illusion while simultaneously preparing for something radically different. One mistake, one hint of the real plan, and the entire strategy would collapse. Chapter 3. The Tactical Innovation. Reversing Everything. On the morning of the actual battle, Scipio revealed his masterstroke, and it was unlike anything ever attempted in ancient warfare. Instead of the expected formation, Scipio completely reversed his deployment. His best Roman and Italian troops moved to the wings, while his Spanish allies took the center. But this wasn't just a simple position swap. It was the foundation for a revolutionary tactical concept. Scipio had invented what military historians now call the big reverse, double envelopment, or inverse pincer movement. Instead of trying to break through the enemy's center or outflank them on one side, he planned to deliberately weaken his own center, while strengthening his wings for simultaneous attacks on both enemy flanks. The brilliance was in the timing and psychology. The Carthaginians, conditioned by days of routine deployment, automatically positioned their elite African troops in the center to face what they expected to be the main Roman force. When they realized the Romans had changed formation, it was too late to redeploy without creating chaos in their ranks. But Scipio added another layer of genius. He delayed his wing attacks until the armies had been engaged for some time. His Spanish allies in the center were ordered not to win, but simply to hold. Their job was to keep the elite Carthaginian center engaged and prevent them from redeploying to help the flanks. Meanwhile, Scipio's Roman legions on the wings began systematic attacks on the Carthaginian flanks, which were held by Spanish and Numidian forces. Good troops, but not the elite Africans. These flank attacks weren't frontal assaults, but carefully coordinated maneuvers designed to roll up the enemy line from both sides simultaneously. The tactical complexity was staggering. Scipio was conducting 3 separate battles at once, a holding action in the center, and 2 coordinated offensive operations on the flanks, all timed to prevent the enemy from responding effectively to any single threat. Chapter 4. The Execution. Perfect coordination under pressure. What happened next demonstrated not just Scipio's tactical genius, but the incredible discipline and training of the Roman military system. The battle began conventionally enough. The Carthaginian center, led by elite African infantry, crashed into Scipio's Spanish allies and began pushing them back. To most observers, it looked like the Romans were losing. Their center was giving ground, and their main force appeared to be in trouble. But this was exactly what Scipio wanted. While the Carthaginian commanders focused on their successful center attack, Scipio's wings began their coordinated assault. The Roman attack on the flanks wasn't a simple charge. It was a systematic, disciplined advance that demonstrated Roman military engineering at its finest. The legions moved in perfect coordination, maintaining formation while adapting to terrain and enemy resistance. What made this maneuver revolutionary was the communication and timing required. Ancient armies had limited means of battlefield communication, mostly trumpets, flags, and shouted orders. Coordinating simultaneous attacks on opposite ends of a battlefield, while maintaining a controlled retreat in the center, required a level of command and control that shouldn't have been possible with ancient technology. Scipio achieved this through months of drilling and a command structure that gave local commanders clear objectives while maintaining overall coordination. Each unit knew its role, its timing, and its relationship to the larger plan. As the Roman wings pressed their attacks, the Carthaginian flanks began to collapse. The Spanish and Numidian troops, facing disciplined Roman assaults, couldn't maintain their positions, but instead of simply retreating, they were being systematically destroyed as the Roman attacks rolled inward toward the center. The elite Carthaginian center suddenly found themselves in an impossible position. They were still winning against the Spanish allies in front of them, but Roman legions were attacking them from both sides. The hunters had become the hunted. Chapter 5: The Collapse. Total victory from apparent defeat. What followed was one of the most complete military victories in ancient history, achieved through pure tactical brilliance rather than superior numbers or equipment. As the Roman wings continued their inward advance, the Carthaginian army found itself in a classic double envelopment, but one they couldn't escape because they were still engaged in the center. The elite African troops were trapped between the Spanish allies they were fighting and the Roman legions attacking from their flanks. The psychological impact was devastating. Carthaginian commanders had expected to win through their center breakthrough, but instead found their entire army being systematically destroyed from the edges inward. Units that had never experienced defeat suddenly found themselves surrounded and fighting for survival. The war elephants, which should have been a major Carthaginian advantage, became a liability. In the chaos of the collapsed flanks and confused center, the elephants couldn't be effectively controlled and began causing as much damage to their own forces as to the Romans. Ancient sources describe the final phase as a complete rout. The Carthaginian army, which had entered the battle confident of victory, disintegrated as units fled in every direction. But even the retreat had been anticipated by Scipio. His cavalry was positioned to pursue and prevent any organized regrouping. The numbers tell the story of tactical perfection. Ancient historians claim the Carthaginians lost over 40,000 men killed or captured, while Roman losses were minimal. More importantly, the entire Carthaginian command structure in Spain was destroyed. Hasdrubal Gisco barely escaped, Mago was wounded, and most of their experienced officers were dead. But the true measure of Scipio's genius wasn't just a tactical victory, it was the strategic result. This single battle effectively ended Carthaginian power in Spain, secured Rome's flank, and provided the resources that would eventually allow Scipio to invade Africa and defeat Hannibal himself. Chapter 6: The Innovation. Tactics that changed warfare. The Battle of Ilipa represents more than just a clever victory. It introduced tactical concepts that would influence military thinking for centuries. Scipio's use of psychological conditioning before battle was revolutionary. Ancient warfare typically relied on immediate tactical superiority or strategic positioning. The idea of systematically manipulating enemy expectations over time was unprecedented and wouldn't be seen again until modern psychological warfare. The reverse double envelopment itself became a studied maneuver in military academies. Unlike Hannibal's famous double envelopment at Cannae, which relied on enemy mistakes and favorable circumstances, Scipio's maneuver was entirely self-created through tactical innovation and perfect execution. Most importantly, Ilipa demonstrated that Roman military strength wasn't just about discipline and equipment, it was about adaptability and innovation. Scipio proved that Roman commanders could outthink their enemies, not just outfight them. The battle also showcased the Roman military's unique combination of centralized planning and decentralized execution. The coordination required for Scipio's maneuver was only possible because Roman military training emphasized both individual initiative and collective discipline. This tactical philosophy would become central to Roman military doctrine. Future Roman generals would study Ilipa as an example of how superior planning and execution could overcome numerical disadvantages and enemy strengths. The influence extended beyond Rome. Military theorists throughout history have analyzed Scipio's tactics, from medieval commanders to modern military academies. The principles of deception, coordination, and tactical flexibility demonstrated at Ilipa remain relevant to contemporary military thinking. Chapter 7. The Legacy. Why you've never heard of it. So why isn't the Battle of Ilipa as famous as Cannae, Gaugamela, or other ancient tactical masterpieces? The answer reveals something important about how history remembers military genius. First, Ilipa was overshadowed by Scipio's later victory over Hannibal at Zama. While Zama ended the Second Punic War and made Scipio famous, it was actually a more conventional battle that relied heavily on superior cavalry provided by Numidian allies. Ilipa was pure tactical genius, but Zama got the glory. Second, the battle occurred in Spain, far from the main theaters of the Punic Wars in Italy and Africa. Ancient historians focused on events closer to Rome or more dramatic campaigns, so Ilipa received less detailed coverage in surviving sources. Third, the complexity of Scipio's maneuver made it difficult for ancient writers to explain clearly. Hannibal's double envelopment at Cannae could be described simply: surround the enemy. Scipio's reverse double envelopment required understanding psychological conditioning, tactical timing, and coordinated maneuvers that ancient military writing wasn't equipped to analyze in detail. Finally, Scipio's victory looked almost too easy to contemporary observers. The battle appeared to be a straightforward Roman win rather than a masterpiece of tactical innovation. The weeks of preparation and psychological manipulation that made the victory possible were invisible to most witnesses. Modern military historians have begun to recognize Ilipa as one of history's great tactical achievements, but it still doesn't have the popular recognition it deserves. This is a shame, because Scipio's maneuver represents military thinking at its most sophisticated, the perfect blend of psychology, tactics, and execution that defines true strategic genius. The Battle of Ilipa proves that sometimes the most brilliant military innovations are hidden in plain sight, overshadowed by more dramatic but less innovative victories. Scipio didn't just win a battle, he invented new ways of thinking about warfare that influenced military theory for over 2 millennia. Final chapter. And that's the story of the most genius military maneuver in Roman history that you've probably never heard of: Scipio Africanus's tactical masterpiece at Ilipa, where psychological conditioning met innovative tactics to create one of history's most perfect victories. This battle proves that the greatest military genius often lies not in dramatic charges or heroic stands, but in the careful preparation, innovative thinking, and perfect execution that make victory look effortless. Scipio didn't just defeat his enemies, he outthought them so completely that they defeated themselves. What do you think? Does Ilipa deserve recognition as one of history's greatest tactical achievements? Or do you think other battles demonstrate superior military genius? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into hidden military brilliance, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Next week, we'll explore another overlooked tactical masterpiece that changed the course of history through pure strategic genius.